I think we are done with our preliminaries. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, August 13th, 2020. And we have a really full agenda, but let's call the roll first, and then I'll review our agenda for the public, and then we'll get to work.
Munson.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Githens.
I'm sorry, I had to unmute here.
Hamilton.
Here.
Piedmont Smith.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Swafford. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Our agenda is a full one, and we will begin with considering a resolution regarding need determination for solid waste management facilities. And this is in accordance with a Monroe County ordinance, about which you'll hear more. And then, and that is an action item. Then we have a request for determination of need. And that is a presentation by Rumpke Waste and Recovery, and they are proposing a resource recovery facility in the county. So that is not an action item, but we will hear their presentation and have times for questions and comments. And then we will do our regular business with minutes and controller's report, and then we will turn to our budget deliberations and department reports. So that's our work today. And let us begin with the resolution 2020-06. And Ms. Piedmont Smith, would you like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, may I just ask a question?
Sure.
I don't know the length of this meeting, but I do have some time pressure at the back end. And I don't know how important it is that we vote on the budget today, I guess, compared to this other. Are they both? I just want to ask that.
Right. Mr. McGlasson, what's the schedule that we are facing?
Well, I guess our budget first goes before the county council for a first reading on September the 11th, which would be before, I believe, before the next scheduled board meeting. Or no, wait, I'm sorry, that would be the day after the next scheduled board meeting. So in order to get them what our board has approved as a budget, that information to them in a timely fashion, not voting on that today, it would be best if we had an extra called a special meeting in the next couple of weeks to take care of the budget in order to get everything to the council in a timely fashion.
Well, I'll leave that up to you. I probably can't go much past 5:30. I don't know for sure if I can go that, but however you can manage the time best to use, that's great. I'll let you carry forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The board always has the option to reorder the agenda as they see fit.
And seeing Mr. Hamilton's schedule information, let's take care of this right now and move budgets ahead of our consideration of minutes and other reports. And so that would move budgets to item 3 on our agenda.
Thanks.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Say aye. Oops, I can't do voice. Mr. McGlasson, call the roll on this, please.
And this is a motion to reorder the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Hamilton.
Aye.
Jones.
Lee, we need you unmute.
Sorry. Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, let's get right to work with the resolution. And Ms. Piedmont Smith, if you would begin, please.
I move resolution 2020-06. Do I have a second?
I'm waiting for a second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I'd like to turn to Mr. McGlasson to present this resolution.
This is a resolution related to an ordinance that the Board of Commissioners passed actually back in 2007. That has also since been incorporated into the county code in Chapter 360. The ordinance requires somebody that is proposing a solid waste facility in Monroe County that requires a state permit or a registration to first seek a determination of need and statement of consistency with the district solid waste management plan to take to the commissioners prior to applying for the state permit or registration. So it's something that's been on the books for a while, but the district has never had need or has taken it upon itself to establish any criteria to make such a determination. And when the ordinance was passed by the commissioners, they did not offer any guidance or criteria on how that determination should be made. So now that we have received such a request, it's imperative on the board to establish the criteria that will be used to make such a need determination for the request at hand. So that's what the resolution you have in front of you is. As stated in the memo, this is a resolution that was formulated through discussions with the executive committee and with legal counsel. We recognize that the full board has not had a chance to vet it, and just to make board members aware, it is, you do have the option, amendments can be made, and the resolution can be amended or changed prior to a vote at this meeting. You're muted, Cheryl.
Board members, you have the resolution in front of you, and this would be the time to make comments or ask questions. Just raise your hand if you wish to. I'm not seeing any questions. This is highly irregular.
Julie's got her hand up.
Here's one. Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Dr. Thomas.
I have one. So a couple things. I appreciate that the time was taken to go through what the solid waste district believes would be an identification of need. And I appreciate the fact that the time was taken to look at the service area, the local demographics, the existing inventory, et cetera. I also am pleased to see that the focus is really on just the solid waste district, because there's an IDEM approval and those are separate issues. And the planning department, because this is in the county, it would also have to meet those requirements. And then so there are other steps that are going to be needed that are not listed here, but I don't think they need to be listed. But I do want to point it out for the public that this is not the totality of what fits into a requirements guideline baseline. So thank you for that. I do have a quick question about cost benefits for county residents. Could you share what your thinking is on that? What does that mean for the solid waste district?
Thank you, Mr. McGlasson.
Well, that'd be a part of the economic impact, and I get the cost benefit analysis or an assessment of cost benefit to county residents. Would have to do with regard to the impact, the fiscal impact on county residents that a new facility or an additional facility might bring with regard to cost for waste disposal and recycling that is currently passed along to county residents that utilize those services.
Okay, so even though we have a contract with someone else right now, that's still an issue to consider.
Well, that's it. The statement that there is to the county residents, not necessarily specifically to the district.
Not to the district. You're talking about residents in general. Okay, thank
Correct.
you. Thank you for that clarification.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Hamilton?
Thank you. So I've been on this board for 4 years, I guess. This is a new one to me, maybe to others of us. I guess I have a couple questions. One is, would it be accurate that many counties or many solid waste districts have a provision like this that sets out the criteria that they use for this kind of determination?
Not that I'm aware of. But this is not. I mean, what we're doing here is an attempt to satisfy a mandate that the county has placed on us when they passed Ordinance 2007-18.
Is that certificate of need then an unusual aspect in solid waste districts around the state?
It would be that I am not aware of other counties that have such a requirement on facilities.
And just help me understand, and others may know this, I just don't know. What is I know certificate of needs in nursing homes a long time ago. I was familiar with some of that. Those were, what was the rationale for it here? Just to help me understand the rationale for the certificate of need.
That I can't answer, and I'm not sure that because the current Board of Commissioners is 3 different people than were the Board of Commissioners in 2007, and unfortunately, describing the process and establishing the criteria was not a task that was undertaken with that Board of Commissioners at the time the ordinance was passed. So I'm not sure that there's somebody here that can answer that question.
Anybody have a guess?
I would not hazard to answer that question. I would say that if you're interested, you can contact our office and get a copy of the minutes from that meeting when it passed.
Well, I'm just trying to kind of understand what the purpose of it is, to help understand. I was hoping that there might be models of assessing the need that was used in other numbers of other places, because these kind of things can make a big difference. And I'm just trying to understand, for example, if you have one provider that is meeting a bunch of needs, does that suggest that you should say we have them met, so we have no need, or that, which seems a little odd to me. I don't know. On the other hand, I don't know how to evaluate. I'm just trying to understand how to evaluate it. It seems like a significant public determination, and I'm not familiar with it.
Well, I mean, I guess from my perspective, what we're looking at here is, is passing this resolution in either as is or in a modified format, and that would lay out some criteria that staff would then take and do research and prepare, get data and information together and prepare a document for the board to review prior to the September meeting to assist them, with making that determination one way or the other.
Thank you. I have a comment to offer on this. The ordinance has 2 parts, and that not just a determination of need, but also how the proposal conforms with the district solid waste management plan. And that is very logical to me, that we should look at that. So I can't imagine that is an irregular thing, but need was a nebulous term that the executive committee and the staff felt required some criteria for us to review and present back to the board.
Do we need to specify in the ordinance that, do we need to amend it to specify that the need determination will be done by the staff?
I don't, if the ordinance is silent, I don't think it requires any specificity to be added.
Yeah, I don't, I would hazard to guess that that's not a, I don't know if we have any legal counsel here, but I don't think that that is a fair way to treat a business, because you are, you would, unless you put some kind of number on it and said within 90 days, the staff had to produce a report or something like that, because otherwise you could just use it as a stall tactic. So I find that probably not useful. But if the information, I would imagine a business that wants to come in this field would have this information presented to them. This is what we need to know. And they can make a determination about whether they want to present that information to us or not. So I would just be careful with that.
Other questions or comments? Are you ready for the question?
I'm not.
Oh, Mr. Hamilton.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get my head around this a little bit, because it does seem to me, if there's an ordinance that says we have to certify that this facility is needed, and Ms. Munson, you correctly very well point out there's kind of two parts. It's needed and it's consistent with our plan.
Mhm.
And the consistent with our plan seems pretty straightforward and common sense, I guess. The fact that it's needed, I just, for example, that third bullet under now therefore that says it should include a determination of the services needed but not currently provided by the district or another provider, which suggests that if one provider is providing services, then another provider of those services is not needed. I mean, as I read that, just kind of common sense.
So
Is that how I should read that?
I will reply to that based on our executive committee discussion. And that was, we're not trying to limit this, but to identify whether there are services being proposed that are not provided by the district or another provider.
Say that again.
That's not to say that there's not a need if they duplicate services.
It's just relevant to know that.
It's just relevant to know that.
I see.
I think it's relevant to know. I think it's relevant to know fully what they are proposing.
It's up to this board to decide how to assess need and whether it fits and is consistent with the district's solid waste management plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this resolution sets out, is how that will be done.
Right. It's the first time I've seen this, and it's budget week and I don't have a lot of time to think about it. I'm just trying to, it seems significant if we've never done this before. And this is I just want to, Tom, Mr. McGlasson, have you had occasion to discuss this with anyone at IDEM or the Solid Waste Management Association or other folks like that?
Well, I guess legal counsel and I, have done some research, and there are examples of needs assessments around the country. Not exactly the same situation we're in, where you're looking at assessing or determining the need of a specific facility that's been proposed, but criteria, things that other areas around the country have used, to assess, what types of facilities might be needed in their area. So we did have that to look at. I've also talked with some people at the Lake County Solid Waste District that not the same scenario, but they had a situation where they got involved in some litigation because they did not have this type of criteria established, and the district came out against a facility, a permit application at the state level, and that
I can imagine
resulted in some
that. I can
litigation.
imagine that prompts litigation.
Yeah. So
what? I don't want to. Somebody else, Julie, if you want to ask a question, that's fine. I have another one.
So
I just, yeah, no, go ahead.
Julie.
I just wanted to clarify, this doesn't replace IDEM, this doesn't replace planning,
No.
this doesn't replace the commissioners, which may convene a public hearing about the location or decision to locate this kind of facility. So this is clarifying the district's plan, the district's path. It does nothing else.
Yeah, that's very helpful, and that actually relates to another question. Just what are the criteria that IDEM? Just basically, I'm sorry, I don't know, should know. What are the criteria that IDEM would use in terms of evaluating this? Other than, I mean, I'm sure there are safety and appropriate procedures and such, but do they do any analysis of market need or consistence with plan or anything like that?
No, they're actually, as a part of the permitting process for a facility, the applicant is required to make a demonstration of need for the facility, but the statute, and I thought I had it sitting here and I can't find it, but my recollection is that the statute does not offer any specific thresholds or criteria or anything like that the applicant has to meet to make that demonstration.
But they're supposed to demonstrate a need to IDEM also?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's absolutely really important and good point that there's tons of other hurdles to cross for this. But I guess it seems this is a hurdle that if we were to say no, that kills it. Is that right? If we were to say there is no need, if we don't certify that there's a need and that it's consistent, does that terminate the process for the applicant?
According to this ordinance, the commissioners need to have an affirmative determination of need and conformance before they can make their decision, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what do people think about I'm looking at the now therefore paragraph, if I may just, and when it says it should include the following, there's kind of a catch-all bullet at the end. I read characteristics and content of applicant proposal not otherwise included above, that it should include that. But that's basically just referring to whatever they put in the proposal. What do we think about a little bit of a wiggle room that lets staff and others consider other factors if they want to on their own, not just what's in the applicant proposal, but something like should include at least the following, or should consider factors including the following, but maybe it leaves room for other factors if we want to. I don't.
Do you want to say should include but not be limited to the following?
I feel like it's hard for me to know if this is the exhaustive list that ought to be the determinants of the factors, so that would be helpful to me. Should include can kind of mean that, but it's not very explicit.
I guess one thing I think you're going down this line, I think I should state is that one thing that you have to consider when we pass this resolution, that the ordinance says any solid waste facility that requires a state permit or registration. And so, we're not talking about just a transfer station or a landfill. That would include a medical waste processor, a composting facility, a hazardous waste facility. So, this,
That's a good point.
the criteria needs to be kind of broad, general, and all encompassing for, any number of types of facilities that would fall under this ordinance.
Mhm.
So does that suggest you want to make it flexible or not make it flexible? More flexible?
Well, I'm not sure that, I guess flexible is the word I want to use, but I mean, broad.
Inclusive.
It needs, the criteria needs to be, applicable to a wide range of facility types that, that would be subject to permitting or registration under state statutes.
So in that case, would it not be more open-ended to say should include but not be limited to the following criteria for the?
Or but may not be limited to.
Should include.
I see Carmen and Parker's name down there. Angela, do you want to weigh in?
Sure. I thought I was going to get away with
Thank
just
you.
being quiet in this meeting. I think that Tom's pointed out the difficulty that exists with this, because when the district board, who has to, this has to pass muster with the board, when you're evaluating a proposal that could be a wide range of possibility, not just the one that you might hear about this month, but one you might hear about next year, the criteria really does have to be broad enough to allow the staff to then evaluate all of the different factors that relate to a specific or particular proposal and weigh it against the district plan so that it can bring that information, data, and recommendation to the board. I think the goal with this resolution was to try to create some set of criteria to work from in order to get that in front of the board and make sure that the staff had considered at least all of the things that the board thought was relevant and important in terms of needs assessment. So I'm fine with adding that language to create a little bit more room for other consideration. You might not be surprised to know that I drafted the last sentence about characteristics and content of applicant proposal not otherwise included, because it needed to get to that issue of things that could be included in a particular proposal that we didn't think of in preparing this list of criteria. So it is a little bit of a safety net or a catch-all that would allow for some of that flexibility.
Can I propose two things maybe to think about? And I really appreciate that. And I know we're trying to move this along. One would be to add just the words "at least" after "should include at least the following." And then I would actually propose to move that second to the last bullet, which I think is actually the most important one, to the front of the list. Just visually, the alignment with the plan is, to me, kind of the most important thing. And if we put that bullet up front, then to me that kind of emphasizes that's what we're looking at first, and then all this other stuff can help us do that. But I would be happy to propose such an amendment unless that seems out of order or ill-advised, which I'm happy to hear too.
Are there other questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Hamilton, please make your motion.
Thank you. I would move to amend this resolution by adding the words "at least" after "should include" in the now therefore clause, third line. So it should read, now therefore blah, 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 chapter 360-2 should include at least the following, adding the words "at least." That's the first part. And the second part is to move the second to the last bullet that reads alignment with the planning principles, et cetera, move that to be the first bullet.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas? Discussion among the board members, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised. Mr. McGlasson, are we ready for roll call vote?
You are. Hamilton,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones, Munson.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Thank you, board members. Now, with this in hand, let's turn to the second item on our agenda, which is not an action item for today. but
Oh, wait,
Excuse me, we still need to vote on the resolution
Oh.
as amended.
I'm sorry, we do. Thank you. Thank you.
I move approval of the amended resolution.
Oh, we already, okay, thank you.
But now
Julie.
it's amended, so.
Yes.
A
I was
second.
waiting for Ms. Piedmont Smith to do that, but that's fine.
Okay.
Do we have a second on Ms.
Second.
Thomas's? Thank you, Ms. Piedmont Smith. Mr. McGlasson, would you call the roll?
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes, and we should have had public comment.
We should have.
We
Yep.
should have.
We have public present.
Thank you. Shall we hold that for public comment?
I would see if there's any hands, Mr.
I haven't seen any hands.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
So,
then we're good, then I'm happy.
thank you. We now have criteria. And next we have a presentation by Rumpke Waste and Recycling that they wish to give to us. And Mr. McGlasson, you're in charge of the PowerPoint,
I think so.
and will you handle the introductions, please?
I can, yeah. So yeah, as we discussed leading into the resolution, we have received a formal request for a determination of need and planned consistency from Rumpke Waste and Recycling. And if I miss anybody, please jump in and introduce yourself. But I believe representing Rumpke at this meeting, we have Ted Nera, Bill Rumpke Jr., Eric Curtis, and Molly Yeager. Also on behalf of Rumpke is a consultant from Aptum, Christina Siebert, and Jim Mr. Dustin Plummer from Maller and Grodner, and Jim Thaxton. I missed him, didn't I, Ted?
You did.
I apologize.
Yeah, no worries at all. Many of those individuals won't be presenting tonight, but there's a host of Rumpke affiliated individuals on the meeting today.
Okay, can everybody see the PowerPoint?
No.
No?
I don't believe your screen. There you go.
How
There it
about
goes.
now?
There it is.
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. Well, good afternoon, board. My name again is Ted Nera. I'm the Director of Business Development for Rumpke. And I just want to thank you for your time this evening and your consideration. We are excited about the opportunity. We're still getting used to this new communication format, so please forgive any technical glitches. This is my first public meeting on Zoom. As a quick point of clarification, we modestly updated the presentation and added another slide. This is near the end of our presentation, and I believe you'll find it exciting. There's a lot of information, and out of respect for your time tonight, we intend to move quickly through the presentation. Your questions may be answered along the way, so we respectfully ask that you hold your questions perhaps until the end. Tom, if you would like to advance the slide, please.
Well, those technical glitches you mentioned.
There you go. All right, perfect, perfect. As a community leader, you know that great things are never accomplished by one person. It always takes a team of people collaborating together. There are many individuals that have supported this project to date. We referenced several of them here earlier on the meeting. And I just want to thank them personally for their effort. We're also really looking forward to collaborating with the district and the various Monroe County departments and other stakeholders in the community as we advance this project. Presenting tonight will be Bill Rumpke Jr., our CEO and president, Steve Sargent, our director of recycling, Christina Siebert, our project manager from Aptum. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Bill Rumpke Jr. to say a few quick words. Tom, if you'd go ahead and advance the slide. Bill?
I've had some technical difficulties. Am I coming through?
You are.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. All right. It's been a rough day here. I run my computer with this in this new world that we're living in. Thanks a lot, Ted. I appreciate it. I want to thank the board for this opportunity to be on the call today so we can discuss our resource recovery facility proposal and the benefits that we believe that it'll have for Monroe County. First, real quick, a little bit about us. I am the third generation of senior leadership at our private family-owned company. My grandfather founded the company in 1932. And since our inception, we've been committed to being a total waste solution provider. For 88 years, our family company has been helping millions of residents and businesses throughout Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia to properly manage their waste and recycling. Rumpke ranks among the highest or the largest waste and recycling companies in the country. And I'm proud to say that this year, we were named as one of the best managed companies in the United States based on our strategy, execution, culture, and financials by Deloitte Private and the Wall Street Journal. We've always been innovators, finding creative ways to assist our customers with their waste and recycling needs. Examples include gas to energy projects like the one we recently announced in Medora, Indiana, our one-of-a-kind glass and recycling facility in Dayton, Ohio, and our recent commercial recycling facility that we opened in Medina, Ohio. Our team will discuss many of these innovations here this evening, as well as our well-thought-out plan to help your district meet its own waste and recycling goals. While my brother, Area President Jeff Rumpke, was unable to attend tonight's meeting, he has been and will remain active in this project, as will many other members of our company leadership team. Thanks again for your time. We're glad to be here. We look forward to a future with Monroe County. With that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Recycling, Steve Sargent.
Thank you, Bill. Stay on the slide there, Tom. I want to just maybe add on a couple of the comments that Bill has made. You can see from the slide that we have 88 years of experience, as Bill said. I'm in a unique position with the company. I've had the opportunity, because now with the fourth generation of the Rumpke family working in the company, I've worked with 3 of the 4 generations of the company. Came on board in 1990 as the recycling director for the corporation, and I've stayed there. That's my passion. I headed up the recycling division over that time period and had a lot of growth. You'll see the company itself is 3,200 employees today, 2,600 vehicles on the street, 11 recycling plants. I've been involved in actually every one of those over my tenure with the company. 2 of those are unique, and Bill mentioned we also have another one of our unique features. We run and try to provide a service. We have a scrap tire processing operation, and we've done a lot of the tire cleanup work in the state of Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. take about 1,000 tons a month of tires into a facility just north of Cincinnati. We deal with that problem. We actually turn that into a civil engineering application. So we try to solve problems for our customers. Bill mentioned the glass plant, and I will mention that just in a moment. 18 transfer stations and 14 landfills. Now, when you drill down on that to the local level, we have 2 landfills in the local area. One in Jackson County, Medora, that Bill mentioned, and also we've had a long relationship with Bartholomew County, operating that landfill for them. Of the recycling plants, we just opened up a new facility down in Medora in 2017, and it's been so successful. IDEM just gave us another grant to expand that location. More than welcome. We'd love to have you come and look at that. But very interesting. You would think in that portion of Indiana where we service down in the Scott County, Washington County, Orange County area, how much recycling would be there. We've already processed in the last 4 months over 1,300 tons of commercial cardboard from that area, and over 700 tons of residential single stream has come through that plant. It's been quite a success. We work with the local solid waste director, down there in that area. We work with, and then we also have then used that material to move that into one of our local plants. And Director Hackman has been very close with us and working with that. So we have a local presence, even though we have a kind of a regional and even a national awareness. So what I'd like to do, I'll turn this over, but we'll be able to have the opportunity to share some of those opportunities with you a little bit later in the presentation.
Thank you, Steve. Tom, if you go and advance the slide. Thank you. To add value to others, you must first see the value in others. This is a key principle that the Rumpke family has lived by. This principle really applies here in Monroe County. The district is doing a fantastic job of source separating a lot of its material. This project will ultimately complement your system and leverage that value that you are already creating. What you'll hear about the project this afternoon is that it will want to promote increased recycling and innovation, bolster a circular economy, which is pretty exciting in Indiana, increase competition and redundancy of infrastructure, improve environmental performance, and create substantial economic benefit to the community. In short, the project will promote both economic and environmental sustainability for the community. Tom, if you can go ahead and advance the slide, please. In the next couple slides, I'm going to quickly address a few things. Dr. Thomas referenced this earlier. This was some of the discussion early. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process for approval, the vision of the facility, and the location. We think the location discussion is relevant at this stage. As we look at the process today, right now, we celebrate a very important first step to creating a new future for Monroe County. That first step is before you tonight. It is our request for determination of need and plan consistency. Anything you can do to complete a timely review is greatly appreciated. As you can see, and as discussed earlier, the process is complete, is comprehensive, and includes many permitting steps, ranging from local land use all the way through to state permitting. All aspects of safety and environmental protection will be addressed through these various permitting steps. We are looking forward to beginning this journey. Tom, if you'd go ahead and advance, please. Another principle the Rumpke family lives by is this. It is one thing to have sight. It's another thing to have generational vision. This site, this property is both flexible and large enough to accommodate an evolving vision. It'll be developed in phases as growth dictates. And we anticipate that over time, our investment will range from $10 to $15 million and ultimately expect this site to support anywhere between 25 and 50 jobs. Some features include a new hauling company and shop, a processing and transfer facility, and then we have an area up closer to State Route 37 that would be available for a community convenience center. This again is our attempt to align with the district and complement their goals and plan. You know, just pausing for a second on this picture, you can see State Route 37. You can see an adjoining industrial park, and there just kind of to the southeast is the wastewater treatment plant. Tom, if you'd go ahead and advance the slide, please. While not expressly required for a demonstration of need, we think it is very relevant to address location tonight. The property is located just south of town, right off of State Route 37. It's got great access, located in an industrial corridor, and the parcels themselves are already zoned heavy industrial. It's a great fit. Commissioner Githens, I believe the facility is located in your district, and we would welcome it toward any time to solicit your feedback and the feedback of other officials like Councilwoman Wiltz or Trustee Combs. If any of your constituents have any questions about the project as we move forward, the team here is open to talking or meeting with them directly to address their questions. Tom, if you'd go ahead and advance. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Steve Sargent.
Great. Thanks, Ted. One of the key, I think, significant parts of our proposed project is the focus on increased recycling. We're dealing with this not only in the state of Indiana, but across the Midwest and all of our service areas. How do we continue to drive more of this material through our sustainability programs and get that back into the market? There's been some great progress. I think that when you look at the graph that we have posted, that this reflects in Monroe County kind of a flattened line on the recovery versus the growing disposal rates. This is not unique to Monroe County. It's actually a situation we're dealing with, again, across the Midwest and nationally. I thought it was interesting recently that California provided data that said that they have now had 4 years of a continuous slide in their recovery rates compared to the rate of disposal. Oregon has now reported 6 years of that. So again, states that have been kind of on the forefront at some point of leading and investing in recycling, they're struggling with that. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. One is the generation of waste is continuing to grow, especially in some pockets of the country are having explosive growth in some of their disposal rates. But we've also been influenced by, for example, China's initiative called the National Sword, where in 2018, they shut off the flow of all mixed paper and mixed plastics. That's impacted our industry. Another one has been glass. Many of the operators and providers has actually removed glass from their programs. We're quite the opposite of that. And we'll share that story with you. We are actively looking for glass. And that was one of my first inquiries to the Solid Waste District about their glass and what you're doing with it today and how we can possibly expand that in the future. Our comprehensive plan has really 5 general points. One, as I mentioned, would be we would prefer and want to establish a glass depot in this facility. I'm working now on another glass depot project in the Cleveland area in a range of 150 to 200 miles around the Dayton glass plant. We need to bring glass in. I need today about 1,000 tons more per month of glass. And I'll share that with you in the circularity slide just in a moment to show you where that demand's coming from. A lot of that's coming from the state of Indiana. Number 2, and I think this is as important, is that we want to maximize the revenue that the Solid Waste District has already invested in the material that you're generating from your drop-off locations. You have, in many cases, especially in your fiber grades, segregated, very clean material. In essence, the way I look at it is the local residents and your customers and your staff have done a great job of segregating clean, recyclable material. That doesn't need to be blended back into a single stream mix. We can actually compensate you for that now, and especially when you're looking at a rate that cardboard has gone over to $120 a ton in the month of May because of the pandemic, then you could take advantage of those situations by keeping that material segregated. We'll be able to do that and bale that material separately and offer a compensation for that to the district. We don't want to forget single stream. Again, I've mentioned I've been in this business a long time. I kind of didn't think I was going to be attracted to single stream when it first came down the pike, but I see the benefits of single stream on the collection side. And as I always tell our customers, if you will give us the material that as we ask for on our list of acceptable material, we can handle that and get that material back into the market. We believe strongly in accessibility and education. Those two work together. We have to provide access to our customers, but we also have to educate them at the same time. We want them to be part of that. And you're doing a great job of that in Monroe County. And we would just like to continue to be a partner with you on that. We want to strengthen the commercial recycling opportunities. We believe strongly that the commercial waste stream contains an inordinate amount of recyclables. All you have to do is go to a local landfill and look at a roll-off box or a construction box dump, and it's full of recyclable material. We built a plant in northern Ohio just recently. I'll share that concept with you. And we built that concept into this facility in Monroe County. And the last, I'll just mention that we want to be part of the circularity concept of bringing these materials back into the market. And we want, I think, especially in the Monroe County area, we sit in the middle of markets that are continuing to ask us for more material. So, Tom, next slide, please. I mentioned two somewhat unique facilities and opportunities that we have been involved in. We've been involved in multiples of these over the years, but the two we just have, I think, are of interest. We opened up a new facility in Medina County, Ohio, which is south of Cleveland. This plant was under construction and ended at the end of 2019. We brought it online this year. We put $3.2 million in a public-private partnership with the county commissioners there. They owned a large facility. They brought in about 600 tons a day of waste. Their interest was to target the commercial waste stream. And we believe in that. We've done a lot of tests and a lot of studies to show what is contained in that stream. Today, that plant is pulling out through some equipment that we've installed, corrugated, film plastic. We are actually recovering non-treated wood, which is interesting. We found a home for that. We've really done some very innovative things there to focus on that commercial waste stream. We welcome tours, and you've had some opportunities to look at this facility, but we think that would be one. It's a new concept that we need to focus and not forget the commercial waste stream. The one that Bill Jr. mentioned earlier was our glass plant. We had a major problem in 2004. We had a lack of a consistent market for glass. And we generate a lot of glass. We have generated in Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. We still consistently pick up over 15% by weight of the material we collect from our households is glass. Of any product that I have been involved with, glass is one of the most recyclable products that you can bring to market. We just have got to figure out how to address the challenge. Well, we've done that. The picture of the plant you see on the right, that's our Dayton glass plant. We've just invested about $3 million 3 years ago in that facility. We're currently bringing in 5,000 tons a month of glass into that plant. We're bringing it from a radius of about 200 miles around the circle of Dayton, and we need more. We have got such demand today on glass, and especially the pandemic has caused an additional demand that we simply can't fill. And I'll share that with you, I think, in the next slide. Tom, if you would. And this is the circular economy. The great thing is I wanted to share with you the map. And this is really a story of Hoosiers helping Hoosiers. I think in my tenure, and it's been almost 30 years here with the company, that we are finally getting it in the circular economy. People who generate these products that we've been challenged to deal with, and we in the middle as a processor are now linking with the end market. So instead of a flat horizontal line, we are now seeing a circular economy that I think we're getting to the table that people need to be part of that. Rumpke was just asked to be part of, and we are a charter member of the new Circularity Council. There's 36 members on that council. It's going to be announced, I believe, in mid-September. We sit at the table with people like and companies representing Walmart, Target, Starbucks, and Rumpke is the only private operator sitting on that as a recycler and solid waste company. There are some other major companies on there, but there's 36, and we're going to have a seat at the table. And I think we've been recognized for our innovation. But when you look at the state of Indiana, glass is a great story. In the month of July, 69% of all the glass that we processed through that plant went back into the state of Indiana. And that map reflects where some of that material is going. Ardagh Glass up at Dunkirk, up in northeastern part of Indiana. Johns Mansville has been a wonderful partner of Rumpke since 2004. They basically said, if you build the plant and you make the quality, we will purchase it. We shipped them 1,000 tons of glass in Richmond, Indiana last month to make fiberglass insulation. So if you possibly bought fiberglass insulation in the Midwest, you probably are buying a product that has Rumpke glass in it. And we are trying to ship them more, and they have asked for more glass. The fiber side, there's been a great story in Indiana with Pratt Paper. We have a long-term contract with them. We just signed a 10-year extension contract up in the Valparaiso area. All the material from Medora, that plant that I just mentioned earlier, all that material goes to Pratt, and the material coming out of Monroe County, our proposed facility would also go up to Pratt Industries. They've just been a wonderful partner, and they've grown now over even a new mill over in the state of Ohio that we also try to support. Plastics has been our problem, and that's been the problem in our industry for a long time. It's such a wide variety of material. There's a very silent story going on in Richmond, Indiana now with a company called Perpetual Recycling. They've been purchased by a company called DAC, and they're one of the largest in the Western Hemisphere recycler of polyethylenes. And Rumpke has a supply contract with them. We work in there. We're supplying material today. That's for the PET packaging, and they're getting ready to invest $32 million in that facility. I mean, it's just amazing what the demand is in the state of Indiana. And the last one, which has hit the news, and we are actually meeting with them next week. We've been shipping test material to them up in Ashley, Indiana. Brightmark, they're a very large company that can sustain the business. And that's what we look for. We have a very conservative look at what we do in our business. So we are now part of promoting that circular economy. And we just want to expand that, because I think when we look at what can we can provide all these markets that we can extract more and more material from your community. So we'd be thrilled to be a partner with you on that. I'll turn it to the next slide.
And I think I'll take over here for a little bit. I'm Christina Siebert. I am a senior planner with Aptim Environmental and Infrastructure, and Rumpke brought me in to help on the basis that there is this kind of challenging criteria here for demonstrating need and looking at plan consistency. And as a solid waste planner, that is what I do, and have had experience on couple dozen projects similar to this where we've had to make a demonstration of the need for a facility within a market and looking at different criteria. And so I appreciate the challenge that you all had to go through to set your criteria tonight, and think that they align very well with the experience that I've had elsewhere in terms of what criteria we look at for this demonstration. Stepping to this project, when we work on projects like this, I look at a lot of data that includes things on material quantities, how materials are managed now, what the local waste and recycling policies are, and what economic impacts will be. I'm going to go through the next several slides here covering those topics, and I'm going to go a little quickly so that we can make sure we cover everything without taking too much of your time. I'll be happy to go into more detail later on anything you want more discussion about. So on this first slide, we're talking about a need for competition. Monroe County has only one waste and recycling facility in its borders now, and that means you don't have options to negotiate for added services or to drive innovation or expand capabilities like Steve just talked about. You also don't have options to negotiate better service costs. For the city, you collect your own waste and recycling, and this lack of options was noted as a challenge in a study that your environmental commission had completed in 2015 when you were looking for ways to increase recycling services. The district also noted an interest in competition to increase local recycling options when you conducted your 2018 mixed waste feasibility study. When we look at the tipping fees that are posted at similar facilities, Monroe County's cost might be a little on the high side, and that's probably because of that lack of competition. The resource recovery facility is needed to increase competition in this market, and that's going to drive competitive pricing, and I'll talk more about the cost impact of that when we get to the economic impacts. Tom, could you go to the next slide, please? A second element of need is the availability of infrastructure and capacity. Monroe County is underserved both in the number of facilities that you have compared to similarly sized counties in Indiana and compared to the demand for capacity based on recent waste generation trends. Counties that are your size typically have 2 or more in-county options for waste and recycling, and you have just one. These facilities are essential for waste and recycling to get to their final destinations and to do so cost effectively. The county generates about 170,000 tons of waste and recycling every year, and that amount is growing. Disposal tonnage grew by 20,000 tons the past 5 years, and if that growth continues, you're going to have 80,000 tons more to manage every year in the next 20 years. A single facility might not have the space to handle that, and even if it could, you have no redundancy or resiliency in case of a disaster or even a short-term shutdown of that facility. By determining there is a need for the additional infrastructure this facility will provide, the district will be taking a step towards increasing local capacity and providing resiliency for these essential waste and recycling infrastructures. You can go to the next slide, please. On a policy and planning level, we looked at the district's solid waste management plan, and we found that this facility is consistent with a number of the goals and objectives of that plan. Though your plan was developed nearly 30 years ago, I think it still reasonably reflects your goals based on the recent studies that you've done and my knowledge based on reviewing some of your meeting minutes and discussions you've had. With respect to recycling, the plan sought development of a regional recycling center for Monroe and surrounding counties. You've continued to show interest in this, including with the mixed waste feasibility study in 2018. The plan also saw a role for the private sector in developing recycling capacity and supporting recycling goals. With respect to disposal, the plan envisioned the continued availability of multiple in-county disposal options. At the time, that was being provided through a landfill and a transfer station in the county. Now we would be looking at having 2 transfer stations in the county. Rumpke's facility will be privately developed, and it will be a permanent regional recycling facility in addition to being an added disposal outlet in the county and therefore is consistent with the district's goals and objectives. Next slide, please. The plan also included some overarching principles to minimize environmental impact and human health risk, to close the loop and bring secondary markets to the county, and encourage the privately owned enterprises to participate in the waste management system. Rumpke's facility will be highly regulated and requires a lot of approvals before it can be developed. Ted alluded to that, and several of your board members have alluded to that as well. So it ensures that it will be environmentally protective. It will also be privately developed with no investment or guarantee of waste flows from the county or the district. And that's been a concern for the district when you've considered other options to increase recycling capabilities in the past. Next slide, please. The resource recovery facility will also provide environmental benefits. It will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Waste collected by Rumpke right now is hauled directly to landfills for disposal. This facility will make hauling more efficient, and it will reduce the vehicle miles that are traveled to transport this waste. In addition, Rumpke's Medora landfill, where waste from the facility will be hauled for disposal, is the closest landfill to Monroe County. It's more than 20 miles closer than the Sycamore Ridge landfill, where waste from the Hoosier transfer station is hauled now. Fewer vehicle miles traveled equates to fewer transportation-related emissions. And even greater emissions reductions will be achieved with increases in recycling that the facility will stimulate. Every ton that is recycled and instead of being disposed results in emissions reductions through subsequent reprocessing and manufacturing processes. Tom, next slide. So this next slide is the new one that Ted mentioned we had added. And we added this because we understand that as much as you're committed to increasing diversion and protecting the environment, options that are pursued have to be cost effective, and it's important to stimulate economic benefits. What you'll see on this slide is that Rumpke's facility will have an economic benefit to the community of between $1.6 and $2.7 million per year. That will come through supported economic activity, added revenues, and cost competitive pricing. Ted mentioned that this is a large development project that will represent an investment of $10 to $15 million probably over the term of its development. It's also going to bring 25 to 50 new jobs to the community. In addition, it will support construction jobs during its development. Incremental employee wages and local purchases are estimated to be $1 to $2 million per year out of the facility. Those dollars are important because they will stimulate additional economic activity in the market when employees circulate their wages to go out to restaurants and make household purchases, and when businesses that Rumpke purchases supplies and services from sustain and grow their operations. We typically will see a multiplier of 30 to 50 cents on the dollar for facilities like this, and that will equate to $300,000 to $1 million per year in new local economic activity. Generators, That being your residents, your businesses, even the city and the district will benefit from reduced and avoided disposal costs also. By increasing local market competition, we estimate that tipping fees are going to be reduced and collection pricing might be further tightened as well. In addition, increased recycling and higher quality of recovered materials will result in avoided costs and greater material revenue potential. These avoided costs and disposal savings are estimated to be $1.3 to $1.6 million per year. Finally, the county will receive increased property tax revenues due to the improvement of the property. We estimate that might be an additional $20,000 to $30,000 per year. And Rumpke proposes to match the host fee that's paid by the Hoosier Transfer Station now, which will generate an additional $20,000 to $50,000 per year to support the district's operations. So all of these economic benefits, in addition to the increased recycling capabilities, service innovation, and resiliency through added capacity, will accrue to the community without any public investment or risk. I'm going to turn it back to Ted to have anything to add or to provide a closing.
Christina, here we go here. Christina, I want to thank you for your expert advice and support on this project again. Board, I really appreciate your time this evening. You've been more than gracious. With this significant environmental and economic upside to the community, we believe that this project is both needed, consistent, really is the right project at the right time. We again would very much like to thank you for your leadership and our future vote for both economic and environmental sustainability. You know, at this time, I'd like to open it up for any questions, and we'll try to manage them accordingly. I know, Mayor Hamilton, you've got a tight timeline here, so we're always available for questions later on as well. So we certainly know that this is an important discussion.
So thank you, Mr. Nura. Board members, would you please raise your hand and we'll proceed with questions. And Mr. Nura, Mr. Rumpke, Mr. Sargent, and Ms. Siebert can decide who is going to answer your question. Thank you.
It would maybe be helpful if the screen sharing was ended so we could see it.
Yes, thank you, because I can't see the hand.
Ms. Mutson?
Yes, thanks, please.
If this were approved and after all the approvals were, we got all the stamps and everything that were needed, what kind of timeline are we looking at to get the facility up and going?
Oh,
and I know it's a phased thing, but yeah.
Yes. That's a great question, Commissioner Githens. We think the construction timeline will be anywhere from 12 to 18 months. The permitting timeline, we're not quite sure on. We know that we've got to go through several steps locally and then on to the state. If everything moves along quickly, we think the permitting timeline could be under 12 months, but there are a lot of hoops to jump through, both again at the planning level, at the commission level, as well as at the state level. We expect to put a lot of energy into that, and again would appreciate any help that you can bring in advancing this quickly.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Thomas.
Here we go. Thanks everyone for being here. That is an incredibly informative presentation you've provided to us. We appreciate that. You pretty much covered all of the questions I had on my list as I was going along, and as you predicted accurately. I do have a question in general. One of the things that we don't have right now is glass recycling. So, and I just want to kind of throw this out there that if a facility were to be given the green light from this board and then the Board of Commissioners, Plan Commission, and then you go to IDEM, you're going to present the full range of what you intend to do from recycling to waste transfer, correct? At all of those entities as you are today.
That is correct. That is
okay. Yeah, and so with that, what happens if you present all of that, but then it becomes a waste transfer facility, but not a recycling facility? In other words, that would no longer fit any of the criteria in terms of providing something that we don't already have.
Understand. Bill Rumpke, our CEO, and Steve Sargent, talked a lot about the culture here at Rumpke. It's one committed to sustainability and recycling. Every community that we go to, we offer a full suite of integrated services. I would say recycling is a core tenet, core value to who we are. We don't anticipate having an offering there in Monroe County that doesn't include recycling. We simply don't anticipate that. Steve, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
I would agree with that. I think it's fully integrated even into the design. We've thought long and hard about this. We've actually gone away with our engineering staff and designed in the flow of materials. So I know Bill may also want to make a comment, but
yeah, this is part of the reason that we're for our overall company. Part of the reason that we're presenting to you today is we're looking for more glass. We are much more than just a company that buries garbage. Now, that's what I was trying to say earlier in what I was in my presentation. We provide recycling, waste, and collection of both. So that's what we want to do. So I don't know how else to say it.
Would you, and I appreciate that, and that really helps ease my mind quite a bit. Would you say that the fiscal solvency of your operation requires recycling, not just transferring waste?
So the unique thing is right now, our most profitable line of recycling business is actually glass recycling, if that tells you anything.
Okay.
So it goes into the recycling piece. As we evaluated this entire proposal, is a big part of the profitability of the proposal to us, and it's a big piece of it, and it's part of what we want here. So
great, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Right.
Ms. Jones? Unmute, please.
Sorry. The number of people that you anticipate employing, is that once you've gotten through phase 2? And do you happen to know what kind of parameters will cause you to move from phase 1 to phase 2?
Sure. Yeah, I think that I think we'll be at 25 fairly quickly. I think the phase 2 relative to the parameters of what would take us to 50 is really growth in the community. We know that a material competitor in the market has some contracts in place and has secured some volume, both with the district and city IU. And so we're hopeful that as we get in and get permitted and get up and running, we'll be able to start to secure that work and expand the business rapidly. So that's one avenue. The other avenue is we're going to look to support some of the other rural markets around Monroe County, making this kind of a bit of a reprocessing facility. So as we dig in at that location, we expect the volume to grow. Hopefully, grows quickly. That's our view. Steve, I don't know if you'd like to add to that a little bit.
Well, I think the demand in the marketplace is such that it's interesting. The second phase of this is not a very large square foot phase. That's a real positive. We can add that very quickly. We're actually going to put all the infrastructure in phase 1 regardless, all the electrical work, all the foundations that we need to put in, and then we can just add on to the facility. We would like to have the opportunity to bid on the opportunity to process the county's material now. But that contract, I think, has got another 2 to 3 years on that time period. So be very well prepared to give a very competitive bid then.
Other questions? Well, I'm going to throw one out, and this is really for Mr. McGlasson. and it concerns our current handling of glass recycling. And the answer is not for me in particular, because I know the answer, but it is for the public to know how we currently handle glass recycling.
Well, we currently accept both clear and colored glass at all 5 of our facilities. The glass collected at those facilities in those roll-off boxes is hauled by K&S Roll-Off directly from our facilities to Strategic Materials in Indianapolis, and unfortunately, the way that is set up, that means that we're hauling anywhere from 3 to 5 tons per load, which is not real economical and certainly not efficient. I would add that prior to that current setup, up until 3 or 4 years ago, we did have access to a space at a local facility where all of our glass was taken and dumped there, and in the process of moving it and dumping it and reloading it into another box, it was broken up, and we were able to haul 10 to 12 tons per load. But we lost access to that space and have since had to haul directly from our sites.
So, and about the cost and revenue received.
Scott probably is better prepared to answer that than I am.
We are receiving $41 a ton for clear glass, and we're paid $21.50 for the colored glass, and our transportation is $375 a load thereabouts. So it's we're definitely losing money at this point.
Thank you. I think that's important for people to know. Ms. Thomas?
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question based on what was just raised. The way that Monroe County Solid Waste District collects recycling is separated out. It's what you called source separated, right? So is there any ability in this planned processing facility to take in commingled recycling? Is there any way to do that, or does it need to be a source separated product that you receive?
I can address that, Ted, if you want. Yeah, no, actually in the plan, we have a bunkered system for the single stream material, because that will need to continue. That doesn't bother us, and we've actually incorporated that into the footprint design. I think what we're looking at is a direct baling opportunity to process the segregated material to help that. So I think what we want to do is prop up and let the district maximize their revenues on your efforts you've already made. When as a recycler, I come out of looking at that material, that does not need to be blended back together again. You have value in that material as it sits. Let's maximize that, but we also need to do single stream. Rumpke collects single stream. We would, in our collection trucks, we would bring that material in there also. So it's a component to do a lot of things.
Right, but if you were to collect from another source, you prefer to have the single source separated product. It's more valuable to you than to have to. Is that true?
It is more valuable, but there is a cost to segregate, and you're already incurring that cost today. We just hate to see that wasted and lost in what we're doing with it now. So we'll keep that separated. Correct. Great question.
Mr. Hamilton.
Just very briefly, I don't know if I missed it, but can you talk about compostables in the waste stream and how you think about those or the future of those and where you see it going?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, I might put that one over to you. This is not proposed to be an organics separating or composting location, Mayor, but let me throw that to Steve if you don't mind.
Yeah, the system's not designed to extract organics from the system. Now, our commercial activities, Mayor, in the plant, we will recover recoverable wood, things like that, pallets that are getting stream. Those are things that are coming probably maybe from the commercial sector that we're seeing coming through the plant. And by the way, when we recover anything in that system, those numbers are reported up to the solid waste district, and you get credit for that in your recovery numbers. But nothing planned currently on the organic side. That's a real challenge, as you know, probably, that organics recycling, and they have to really have a lot of thought through that and have a long-term market for that too.
Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions? Well, then I think we're ready to give our thanks to Rumpke for presenting the resource recovery facility. I'm sure questions will come to mind after this presentation concludes. And I know that the district can forward these on to you if anybody wishes to send their questions to the district. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you, and thank the board. I just want to reinforce that we're available for any questions, and you know, I can get my contact information to Tom, and if anybody just wants to reach out to me, we'll move quickly to address any questions that you have. So again, very much appreciate your time and support.
Excellent.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So board members, we'll now move on to the most urgent action today, and that concerns the 2021 proposed budgets. And we have 3 budgets to approve for operating, debt service, and cumulative capital fund. And the operating budget has alternative proposals, A and B. Mr. McGlasson, would you take this on, please?
I will, and in the interest of time, we will quickly go through just a couple of the slides for the PowerPoint presentation that highlight the specific differences in the operating proposals A and B budgets. The differences are exclusively in the personnel services category. Here is a summary overview, and is my mouse showing up on the screen? Is that helping?
If you could make your mouse bigger, it would help.
That's beyond my technical capability. But the left-hand column is budget proposal A, which is the proposal that was presented to the board on July the 9th, as well as to the joint meeting with the CAC on the 16th. In the personnel services category there, you have the controller position going from 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week, the office manager position going from 40 hours a week to 25 hours a week, and the rural recycling centers going from being open 5 days a week to being open 4 days a week. In the next column over, 2021B, after reviewing many different scenarios and looking at a number of ways the budget could play out, the executive committee asked that we also present this scenario to the board, which has the controller positions going from 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week, the office manager position going from 40 hours a week to 25 hours a week, but leaves the rural recycling center's schedule as it currently is at 5 days a week. So you see you're about a $40,000 swing in the bottom line. The proposal A has a $1,500 surplus in it, and proposal B has a $39,000 deficit to it. Again, the revenues are all what we've seen before, with the 4.2% growth quotient, increases and decreases, based on what we've actually experienced in 18, 19, and 2020 year to date. And get through those. So there is, I got a text description of what I just described to you. In addition to the personnel changes, should point out that both of the budget options do include a 2.5% cost of living increase for all employees, and also continuing with the living wage goal we started last year, does raise the minimum rate of pay for the district up to $14 an hour, which I believe impacted 12 employees and then resulted in I think 4 other positions that got a little bit of an incremental bump in an effort to maintain current pay differences that existed due to skills and responsibilities necessary for specific positions. So in the actual personnel services category, you can see a more detailed breakdown of the difference between the two options, how that compares to the 2020 budget. The total wages appropriated decreases, whichever scenario we look at, $71,000, almost $72,000 in option A, and almost $38,000 in option B on the decreases. The longevity is the same as we've looked at before, has no impact on the two option differences, or no impact on longevity. The other places you see impact are on taxes and Medicare, some of the fringes that we do, and nominal differences, and totally based on the difference in appropriated wages. The other place that you do see a difference is on the retirement contribution. The retirement contribution is fully funded by the district at 11%, which is increased over a couple of year span that the board did the past couple of years. So as based solely on the wages to be paid would dictate that retirement contribution. So obviously option A is a little bit lower contribution than option B is. And that is it for the personnel services category. As I said, all of the other expenses are the same that we've seen before. If the board wishes me to review those again, I will, but I know that we're pressed for time, so I would leave that to your discretion. I guess I can reshare if we need to, but so that we can see everybody.
Yeah, there we go. Questions for Mr. McGlasson, please raise your hand. Ms. Githens.
When I was going through the packet that was sent to us, I was looking at page 107, and it compared the amounts budgeted and the amounts actually spent and revenues in 2018, 2019, and so far for 2020. And for 2018 and 2019, I don't understand the very bottom line, the revenue less expenses, because to me it looks like in 2018, 2019, that not as much of the budgeted amount was used, that not the entire budget was actually spent. And if that's the case, how much more flexibility then is in the 2020 budget, I guess?
Yeah, and I think that's a valid observation, and I think that and then for 2019, we went into that budget with basically $100,000 deficit into that budget, and if you'll recall, the board approved a budget that year that had $100,000 appropriated, I think in the professional services expense line, that was there with the thought at that time we were still working with Kessler Consulting and waiting to get their report and what kind of recommendations they might have with regard to the district doing some sort of a composting facility and/or program. So that money was budgeted just to have it there in the event that we did decide to move forward with something after getting the Kessler report. Ultimately, we decided not to do that. So, we ended the year at $166,000 surplus, but $100,000 of that, was that single appropriation that resulted in the deficit that budget had on paper. And I can't remember specifically what it was we had a similar situation in 2018. And Connie or Scott, do you remember what we went into in the budget cycle in 2018? We had a project plan that did not occur.
I don't remember.
That might have been related to the MRF, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah, I can't either.
Well, and right now it looks like for the 2020 budget, which I know we anticipated would have a shortfall, that right now it looks as though there'll be over $100,000 that won't be used. And I don't know if that was because there were people that weren't being paid during the COVID, or at least not any overtime. But it looks like that we're not going to use all the 2020 budget. And that makes a difference for me in terms of which of those two options, because I don't know how much real give there is in all this budget.
For the 2020 budget, and I have not sat down and projected things out, but one thing that's going to be in there that is going to make a difference is that at the time we were going through the budget was when we got hit with the contract situation with Republic, and had looking at incurring a recycling expense instead of getting the revenue off of those. And what we did, we budgeted that recycling expense for the full year, but ultimately when we got the contract negotiations done, that expense didn't kick in until May 1st. Right. So we have a third of the year that we had budgeted to be paying for recycling that we did not have to pay for recycling. Now that's, and that's gonna wind up being $30,000-$40,000. Scott, that's probably even a little high, isn't it?
Yeah, probably so.
But that's what's going to be some of that, and the other part of it is there will be we do have some expenses annually that do occur on the back end of the year. We will spend roughly $60,000 in December purchasing orange bags for next year. We do that every year. So there are some back end heavy expenditures that happen every year that will bring that down some as well.
Well, yeah, when I looked at the first 6 months expenditures versus the projected second 6 months, there was a huge difference. It wasn't just $60,000. I don't remember where that page is, but there was a big difference in the actual expenditures. I wish I'd written it down for myself. I've made notes on the, sorry, it's my bad. Yeah, I was surprised that at the big difference between expenditures during the first 6 months and I can't find it.
I'm looking at the various categories and trying to see the year to date. Our supply category, we through the first half of the year we spent $57,000 out of almost $150,000 appropriated. That's a category that $60,000 orange bag purchase comes in. We also tend, certainly not $60,000. We also tend to bulk purchase office supplies and other supply materials out of that category at the end of the year to get us through the first half or more of the following year. Then I guess, and then in the services and charges category, for the first 6 months, we spent $410,000 out of $1.2 million that was budgeted. That's a line, or that's a category. That the recycling expense is in there. And again, like we said, we weren't paying that the first 3 months of the year, even though that it was budgeted. Another one that's in there is leachate hauling comes out of there. That tends to be heavy toward the end of the year because as the temperature drops, we can't treat as much leachate. And if we have a wet fall, a lot of that winds up having to be hauled for disposal because we can't treat as much as being generated by the landfill. So that there, and that's, and I can't sit here right now and predict or tell you that that there's going to be $100,000 surplus in that category or a $50,000, that we'll be seeking an additional appropriation. I hope we're not seeking additional appropriations, but some of that stuff is, particularly with leachate hauling, it is really hard to predict. The other professional services category, that's we utilize a contractor for a lot of maintenance and stuff at the landfill, and things like erosion, stormwater feature repair, and hard to predict what fall weather will be like and what kind of damage we'd have to repair out there. But those are some of the things that come out of that category that we do tend to, in the second half of the year, have some substantial expenses with.
Thank you. Other questions? So council, we have 2 resolutions in our packet. Shall we present one of them and see how it goes? Ms. Piedmont-Smith?
Yes, I move approval of Resolution 2020-07, Operating Budget Proposal B.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, Ms. Piedmont-Smith. 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is option A. 2020-08 is option B. Just
option
clarify
B.
which one you're moving on.
I'm sorry, my apologies. I move Resolution 2020-08, which is the Operating Budget Proposal B.
Thank you. Is there a second?
For clarity, can you say which one this is?
This is the one that would leave us with a $39,721 deficit because we would be keeping the rural recycling centers open 5 days a week and paying for those wages.
Does that clarify for you, Dr. Thomas, or you need more information? Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
I'll second so we can have a discussion.
Thank you. Discussion. Members, please raise your hand. Ms. Piedmont-Smith?
I'm in support of this version of the operating budget because, as was noted, we probably will end this year with surplus. And I think it's a hard hit for the reduction of hours to the employees who run the rural recycling centers. In a time of economic contraction where everybody is kind of struggling in the pandemic, I think it's best to try to preserve those employee hours. I don't feel that way about the 2 administrative positions because there simply is not enough work really to keep them busy for their current 40 hours a week. But I think there is enough business to warrant reopening the recycling centers 5 days instead of just 4 days a week. So it's kind of that counter-cyclical action of local governments that Mayor Hamilton likes to talk about. And I also think it's not totally irresponsible. I think it's in that we probably will have enough of a budget surplus at the end of this year to cover that amount. I realize that we need to plan ahead for when a reduction in tax revenues hits us because of the economic downturn. And of course, in a few years, we're probably looking at the loss of the, what's it called?
Tipping fees.
The $250,000 from Republic Services.
The host fee.
The host fee, thank you very much. So I realize that we need to plan ahead and we need to, scale down our operations, but I think we can wait another year to scale down the operation of the rural sites.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Thomas?
All things being equal, which they're not during COVID, I would like to know if there has been, because we did reduce hours, if there was a significant decline in the use of our rural sites, whether in the number of tons of trash or in the recycling in general. I'm just kind of curious. On the one hand, people are home more, but on the other hand, people may be afraid to go out and do those kinds of things. So I was just wondering if you'd seen a significant increase or decline.
I'll take that one, Tom. Actually, I'd say a little bit of an increase. The sites are very busy, and so is the main site. So I have not seen any decrease in anything at this point.
So reduced hours didn't really, yeah, I think your Saturdays are busiest, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Thank
I have
you.
I've not heard from any constituents who are concerned about the reduced hours once we were open more than initially. With the current setup, I haven't heard any complaints, so I'm concerned about going back to the way things were just because we did them that way. And I'd love to hear others' thoughts on that.
Ms. Jones?
Yeah, I agree with you. I use the recycling site, and it really hasn't made that much difference going down to 4 days. And I don't see why. It doesn't look like we have a good reason to go back to 5.
Other questions or comments? Well, I will add mine. I'm concerned about the future budget, not 2021, but 22 and 23. And I know that our revenue will be constricted. Our growth quotient will be constrained compared to this year. And I'm not inclined to open up recycling for one more day if it's not truly needed. I feel bad about our personnel, but Mr. McGlasson took steps to make sure that benefits would be provided to all employees, regardless of their reduction in hours. And I think that's the best that I feel comfortable doing. Other questions or comments? Ms. Thomas?
Just a procedural, if halfway through the year we had of 2021, we had a enormous outcry from people that they wanted 6 days a week or 5 days a week at the rural sites because they just could not offload their trash and recycling. Can we go back? We can amend the agenda and the budget here. I'm sorry, the budget here. And then we could go to the county council, correct?
You could come to the county council asking for an additional appropriation from your reserves. Yes. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will turn now to public comment on the resolution in front of us. Please indicate with the hand signal I see no hands and no one wishing to speak. Let's turn to a roll call vote then.
This is a roll call vote for Resolution 2020-08, budget option B with the, that has a just over a $39,000 deficit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thomas. I missed it. Thomas.
I'm going to vote no on this.
Jones.
No.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Githens.
No.
Munson.
No.
Motion fails.
We still need to consider an operating budget. Ms. Piedmont Smith, would you present a motion for us?
Sure. I move resolution 2020-07, adoption of the 2021 operating budget proposal A.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Thomas seconded. Questions or comments? Please raise your hand. Ms. Thomas.
For me, I'd like to see how we go with 4 days. And if it looks like we have the room in the budget to increase, great, let's do it. If that's what's needed, right? So let's see how folks respond. And I am very open to rehearing this anytime throughout the year. This is not a definitive no at this moment. It's just a no for right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I'll turn now to public comment. Please use the hand signal. I see no public comment. Mr. McGlasson, please call the vote.
Githens.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Let us turn now to the debt service bond budget proposal. Ms. Piedmont Smith, will you present the resolution?
Yes, one moment, please.
Okay.
Scrolling. I move resolution 2020-09, the adoption of the 2021 debt service bond budget proposal.
Second.
For $306,320.
Sorry, second.
Thank you for the motion and the second. Mr. McGlasson.
This has not changed at all since it was originally presented to the board. Totally based on the amortization table of the bond, which for 2021 has two payments with fees and interest totaling $306,320. And that's the proposal, the zero-sum budget. And like I said, nothing has changed since it was originally presented to you.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. McGlasson from the board? I see none. Questions from the public? There are no questions listed. Mr. McGlasson, would you call the roll for the vote?
Munson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The last resolution, excuse me, Ms. Piedmont Smith, did you say something?
I was just going to move right ahead.
Oh, just jump right in there.
This time there's not much scrolling. I move resolution 2020-10, adoption of the 2021 cumulative capital fund budget proposal in the amount of $45,414.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Giffen seconds. Questions for Mr. McGlasson? Excuse me, Mr. McGlasson, would you show us the slide, please?
I can. Again, on this one, again, nothing else has changed as it was originally presented. There is currently the $45,414 in that fund. We have no revenues and no expenses planned for 2021. However, we do go ahead and pass the budget this way so that we do have the budget on record with the state that should something happen and we need to tap into that fund, we can go and seek the additional appropriation from it.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Comments? Questions or comments from the public? We'll have a roll call vote, please, Mr. McGlasson.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So thank you, board members. We have a budget. Remaining for us today are the usual business of hearing the minutes, the controller's report and department report. So let's begin with minutes from the executive committee. Those are included in your packet just for your information. We do need to approve board of directors minutes, and Ms. Piedmont Smith, will you make a motion, please?
Yes, I move approval of the Board of Director minutes from July 9th, 2020.
Second.
Any comments or corrections to these minutes? Mr. McGlasson, would you call the roll, please?
Munson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we have Board of Directors and CAC joint meeting minutes of July 16th. We do vote on these.
No, they're not there at this time. They're in there for review and comment. They have not been vetted by the CAC. So since it was a joint meeting, I did want to at least give the board the chance to review and make revisions or corrections.
Okay.
But we also need that from the CAC before it's presented for a vote.
Okay, so questions or comments on those minutes?
And if not now, you can always email things to me, and I will make any necessary revisions and forward to the CAC when they get a chance to review.
Okay, we will take care of this at a future meeting then for a vote. Thank you. Let's move now to the controller's report. Ms. Hudson.
Good evening. Our operating balance is at $2,434,077.99. Our closure bond debt is at $13,808.33. The capital is at $45,413.60, and the landfill post closure is at $765,578.79.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Hudson? Ms. Piedmont Smith.
Yes, I had a couple of questions. And I'm sure these items were on the spreadsheets earlier, and I just this time noticed them. But there's a line on the on page 77 of the packet in the revenues. There's a line.
77?
Yeah. Of the PDF. There's a line that says vendor discount, and it says the budget is negative $15,000. I have a feeling that this has been explained to me before, but
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. And I don't remember the explanation.
This was something
Oh.
that we actually discussed when we did the 2021 budget. The vendor discount is that's in, basically we give the retailers that sell the orange bags. You know, we have the suggested retail price that they are to sell to the public, and then we charge them a slightly discounted, I think it's 5% discount. So we've always budgeted for that as a negative on the revenue side, which is always kind of caused confusion. And so for 2021, we just took that out, and the orange bag revenue is budgeted based on what the retailers pay us for the bag.
Okay.
But for 2020, it is a budgeted line item, and it's there, but you'll never see any monthly number put in there because we're not cutting a check to the vendor. They're not cutting a check to us for the discount. They're just paying us for the bags that they order based on the 95% of retail value that we charge.
Thank you. It's all coming back to me now.
It is.
And I'm glad that we fixed that for next year. I have a couple others, if I may, Ms. Munson.
Please, please.
Okay, so on the next page, page 78, we're looking at expenses. There's a large encumbered amount for other supplies at $69,282. I was just wondering what that was. That seems like a pretty large encumbrance for just supplies.
The 69,282.50.
Yes.
That is for the orange bags that we encumber for the next year's purchase.
Got it. And then one other question is further down in the line that says insurance. We've only paid $1,290 and the budget is $135,800. Do we just pay the insurance like once a year? Or?
No, that comes in November when we pay out the big premium.
Our insurance renewal date is like December 21st of every year.
All right, thank you so much.
So thank you. We are ready to consider payroll and claims. Ms. Hudson?
Okay, our pre-approved claims have been $197,652. Today, I'm asking approval of $51,808.71 for a total of $249,460.71.
Thank you. These were emailed to us. Ms. Piedmont Smith, are you ready for a motion?
Yes, I move approval of payroll and claims as detailed in our council packet, plus what was emailed to the board yesterday.
Thank you. Was there a second that I didn't hear?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. McGlasson, would you make a roll call vote for us?
Jones?
Yes.
Githens?
Muted, Penny.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Yes, I apologize.
That's fine. Thomas?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Piedmont Smith?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we're ready for department reports. Mr. McGlasson, would you lead off, please?
Yeah, I just really a couple things to highlight. What we did get approval from ITEM to include the South Walnut facility with our food and the food waste collection program with Green Camino.
Great.
They have also recently the collection bin is now available for subscribers at the Ellettsville location. And we do anticipate so Bethel and Ellettsville, we are currently accepting food waste. And talking with Green Camino, we do anticipate by the end of the month, we'll be up and running at all 5 facilities.
Great.
And that also just add that Elisa is still working with MCCSC and RBB, and you know, they obviously made changes to their plan for the school year at the last minute, but she has, you know, made necessary modifications to her programs to be able to do them in person, virtually, or even in an outdoor setting if they would let her go to the playground or something. And she is working with the teachers in the school districts to see what we can do to still get in there and do some of our programs yet this year.
Thank you. Other department reports?
Recycling. I just want to point out that the spreadsheets in here indicate that for the last 3 months, so April, May, and June, we've had an increase in our recycling and an increase in bulky items and an increase in trash. So switching to those days, so far I've not got July's yet, but I think we're definitely seeing an increase given the 4 days a week. So
thank you.
We were a little bit high in March because we weren't quite fully integrated yet into the pandemic situation, but we've seen a steady increase as a result of the change in hours and everything. So I'm really curious to see what July is, but I do anticipate it being up as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Morgan? Thank you. Let's turn to Mr. Paulson's report, please.
Hello. My report, I think, is what it is. The only thing I would add to that report is that Monday I received the rough draft from AECom in regards to our May groundwater sampling event that we're going through, asking questions. It looks to be very similar to what our November 2019 results were. So nothing that's creating any red flags or anything like that. Seems to be pretty status quo, I guess, right now. So that's a good thing. So I'm just working with that and working with John Bassett to come up with our cover letter and a couple comments, and we'll be submitting that hopefully sometime next week to IDEM.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Paulson? Ms. Piedmont-Smith?
Yeah, it seems like there are fewer adopt-a-road cleanups this summer than in the past. Is that accurate? And do you think it has to do with the pandemic, or?
Yeah, we've things kind of hit off pretty good when people had it at an initial time right at the beginning of, or not a lot of groups, but a couple groups went out and did huge giant cleanups. But since then, people are just kind of hunkering down right now. I mean, we just haven't seen a lot of activity with that. You know, a lot of our stuff is also determined upon the university. And when the university shut down, pretty much, I mean, all those groups and those college groups that stick around for the summer and the organizations, they just all kind of locked down. So this has been a very low year for that kind of stuff that we're hoping as we eventually get through this, it picks back up. Mary Beth is, she's incorporated several new groups. It's just some of their cleanups have just been very small, and just, you know, just trying to get them going right now. So, but yeah, it's been a very uncommon year.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you raised that so we can get this out to the public in case there are any groups who would like to contact the district to help with roadside cleanup. We need it. So that's it for department reports. Let us turn to public comment if there is any. Please raise your hand. I see none. And now we'll have comments from directors, if anyone is interested. I see no hand. I see one hand. Ms. Thomas.
Just real quick, I just want to thank everybody at the Solid Waste District for all their hard work through the pandemic. I know it's been, the circumstances haven't been ideal for work, but we appreciate everybody's fortitude and hard work and dedication to serving Monroe County residents. So thank you to all of you for working so hard in these circumstances.
So thank you. I thought Miss Jones was raising her hand, and I think her cat is raising its tail.
Yes.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Well, I will close with a comment to say that our next meeting will be September 10th. Same time, same place, presumably Zoom. And at that time, we will have a needs assessment presented by our executive director, Mr. McGlasson, to the board for their review and decision on the Rumpke Resource Recovery Facility proposal. And that will be that will constitute the board's action. Following that, the Rumpke proposal will be taken to the county commissioners. And following that, it will go on down the line in the list of other approvals that you saw presented. So we're ready to wrap up, and I thank everybody for their time. And I want to thank our staff for all their work. They've been incredible throughout this. We are adjourned, everyone.